She told me her past was boring. Just a few dead ends, she said, smiling. But the man who showed up at our dinner table, the one who flinched when he saw her, looked like someone who'd barely survived one of them. I met Eva at a gallery opening 2 years ago. She was standing in front of a painting of a girl holding a fish, wearing a pale green dress that made her look like something pulled from a lake bed. I remember thinking her expression didn't match the colors around her, like she was seeing something darker than anyone else in the room. That was the first thing I noticed about her, the quiet war behind her eyes. She said something about the painting, something clever that I can't recall anymore, and I laughed like it was the first sound I'd made in weeks. Her voice didn't demand attention. It folded itself into the space between our shoulders and stayed there. She moved into my apartment 6 months later. No big speech. No boxes. Just a drawer here, a toothbrush there, and suddenly the air smelled like her lavender soap. I never asked too many questions about her past. Maybe that was the mistake. She spoke in fragments. Boston wasn't kind to me. Or, my last apartment had a leak above the bed. It felt like living under a nervous cloud. Things like that. Nothing about who she lived with. Nothing about the people she left behind. And I didn't press. You can fall in love with silence if you mistake it for peace. Last Saturday, we had a small dinner at our place. Nothing fancy. Just 4 friends from my side, people I'd known since college, Marcus and Dana, who always arrive late and leave wine glasses in weird places, Sarah, who forgets she's allergic to red sauce halfway through eating it, and Ben, who brought someone new with him, a man named Nathan. Eva opened the door to greet them. I was in the kitchen stirring a pot that didn't need stirring. From where I stood, I heard the pause. Not long. Just 2 beats where the usual rhythm of greetings fell out of step. I turned in time to see Nathan staring at Eva. His smile had gone stiff at the corners. Eva's face stayed smooth, but her hand tightened around the doorknob. "Come in," she said. The dinner went fine on the surface. Eva poured wine, made jokes, lit the candles. But her gaze kept slipping past Nathan, like he was a splinter in her periphery she couldn't dig out. Nathan barely spoke. He answered questions, nodded, drank slowly. But whenever Eva said anything, even something small like "pass the salt," I saw something flicker in him, like a memory trying to claw its way up his throat. Later, after the plates were cleared and people were sinking into the post-dinner haze, Nathan stood abruptly. Said he had to be up early. Thanked us. Eva nodded but didn't look at him. Not really. I followed him to the door, more out of reflex than warmth. He paused in the hallway, 1 foot still on the threshold. "She's different now," he said. I blinked. "You two know each other?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. Not really. Not anymore. And then he left. When I returned, Eva was cleaning the already clean kitchen. She didn't say anything. I almost asked. Almost. But I told myself there'd be time later. We were building a life, not an interrogation room. That night she went to bed early, left her wine half finished, and disappeared down the hall without a kiss. I stayed up. Couldn't sleep. The clock ticked like a dripping faucet. I scrolled through old messages, answered work emails I didn't care about, reread a grocery list I hadn't thrown out. Anything to distract from the itch of something unspoken between us. And then my phone buzzed. An Instagram DM from someone I didn't follow. Nathan W. 1985. You don't know who she really is. Just that. No context. No second message. I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying. Me, what are you talking about? No answer. I clicked on his profile. Private. A handful of mutuals, mostly people from college. No posts. Just a blank space with a man's name on it. I set my phone down and stared into the dark. Eva was asleep in the next room, curled around the pillow like always. Her hair would be tucked behind her ear, and her arm under her cheek, bent like a question mark. I didn't wake her. I didn't mention the message. I didn't say Nathan's name again. Instead, I watched her the next morning as she buttered her toast. She wore the same sweatshirt she always wore on slow Sundays, sleeves too long, hem curling. She kissed my temple absent-mindedly and asked if we were out of oat milk. Her voice was light, like nothing had happened, like Nathan hadn't ever existed. I told her we were out, and she said, "Figures," then went back to her toast. But I saw it, the way her foot tapped too fast, the way her eyes stayed on the plate instead of meeting mine. The next time she reached for the honey, I saw a faint scar on her wrist I'd never noticed before. A narrow white line, like a forgotten road. I wanted to ask about it. I wanted to ask about a lot of things. But I didn't. Because when you finally ask, the answers don't always come gently. They come like glass falling out of a frame, sudden, sharp, and too late to catch. The next few days passed like they were trying too hard to be normal. Eva made French toast on Tuesday. She used nutmeg, which she knew I didn't like, and pretended not to notice when I left most of mine uneaten. She read on the couch in the evenings, the same battered copy of Norwegian which she'd read twice before, claiming it made her feel less like a moving target. I wanted to ask what that meant the first time she said it, months ago. I didn't. Some people speak like they're leaving breadcrumbs. Others are just shedding skin. I reread Nathan's message more times than I should have. You don't know who she really is. It lived in the back of my mind like a leak in the ceiling, slow, persistent, threatening mold if ignored too long. I didn't reach out again. I thought if he wanted to tell me more, he would. Maybe he was waiting for me to figure it out myself. I tried searching online. Nothing obvious. Eva's social media presence was slim. A handful of pictures from our vacations, the beach house rental last August, the blurry photo of us at the bookstore she loved, our glasses clinking in some overpriced bistro. All recent. All after me. Her past was curated down to invisibility. I checked our shared Dropbox folder that held all our digital stuff, leases, bills, recipes she never used, and tucked inside was a folder marked old. Just one document in it. A scanned letter from her landlord in Cambridge, dated 3 years ago, addressed to Eva Donnelly. I'd never seen her last name in writing until then. Donnelly. It sounded too gentle. I Googled that, too. Most of what came up was noise, wedding registries, a Pinterest board, some college alumni page. But buried on page 3 of the search results was a link to a discussion forum. Obscure. Mostly dead. A thread titled "She Left and Took the Truth with Her" posted by someone called Liam_D85. I clicked before I could talk myself out of it. The post was dated 21 months ago. I don't know why I'm writing this here. I guess I just need to say it somewhere. She was sunlight for the first 6 months. Then a shadow after that. I didn't know she was seeing him until she was already gone. She didn't take any of her things. Just vanished. She didn't even leave a note. The worst part is I still don't know what I did to make her lie like that. You think you know someone, but they're just showing you the parts they like best. The replies were mostly bots or silence. I stared at the screen, reread the post, and sat with a sinking weight in my gut. I didn't know for sure this was her. She could be anyone. But the timeline matched. The city matched. The quiet, abrupt leaving? That matched, too. I checked the poster's profile. Not much there. But in one thread, someone referred to him by name. Liam. I almost closed the page. But instead, I typed, "Me, username newly made, hi Liam. I think we might know the same person." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The message sat there, unread. Then I closed the laptop and went to bed. Eva was already asleep. She curled away from me that night. The next day, Liam responded, "Who are you?" I didn't give him details. Just told him I was dating someone named Eva, that she used to live in Cambridge, that I'd found his post, that it sounded familiar in ways I didn't want it to. He waited a day, then wrote back, "Be careful." That's all I'll say for now. I didn't reply. I just stared at those words, wondering what he thought I needed protection from. The woman beside me? The silence between us? Myself? That same afternoon, I was looking for my keys and opened the bottom drawer of the nightstand, Eva's drawer. A box of random things. Old cords. A scarf. A birthday card. I read it without thinking. The handwriting was frantic, like someone trying to hold onto a moving train. Happy birthday. I know you're probably not reading this, but I needed to write it anyway. I forgive you, even if you won't admit what really happened. I still think of the way you smiled when you weren't pretending to be someone else. I hope whoever you are now, you're better to him than you were to me. L. I stared at the letter for a long time. The corners were worn, like it had been handled more than once. I slid it back in the envelope and returned everything to the drawer. She never mentioned Liam. She never said she'd left someone behind, broken and confused. She never said she lied. But isn't that the thing about betrayal? It's not always in the act. It's in what gets buried underneath it. That night, she came into the living room and sat next to me on the couch, pulled her feet under her, rested her head on my shoulder. "Do you think people can change?" she asked. It caught me off guard. I've been watching a documentary about deep-sea diving. Why? She shrugged. Just wondering if who we were ever really leaves, or if it just hides better. I looked down at her. Her eyes didn't meet mine. "I think people can try," I said. She nodded. "Trying counts for something." We sat like that for a while. Her breathing slow, my pulse not quite matching it. Later, when she went to shower, I unlocked my phone and searched again for Liam's post. It was still there. Still raw. Still waiting for someone to understand what it meant to love a mirage. Another message came through from Liam. "You'll figure it out. Just look for the gaps in her story. The places where the truth should be but isn't. That's where she hides." Eva always claimed she loved routine, but she lived like someone running from it. She worked freelance, some graphic design for nonprofits, occasional branding gigs for startups, so her schedule shifted constantly. Some weeks she was glued to her desk with headphones and 3 cups of tea in rotation. Other times she'd vanish for hours with vague explanations like client meetings or library research. I used to admire her flexibility. Now I watch the holes in her time like bruises on a photo, faint, but once you see them, you can't unsee them. A Thursday evening in October, she left to grab cat litter and oat milk. Our cat died last year, and we haven't had oat milk in months. She caught herself too late, then laughed, waved it off as habit. "I meant almond," she said. I didn't push, but I checked the time when she left, 7:12 p.m. She didn't return until after 9. She came in with groceries, but no milk, no litter, no apology. Just a quick kiss and a comment about how cold it had gotten. She moved through the apartment like she'd always belonged there, and suddenly I hated how easily she did that. I waited until she went to bed. Then I checked the coat she'd worn, not out of paranoia. Instinct, maybe. Something quieter and more persistent. Inside the pocket was a crumpled cafe receipt from a place called the Timberline Press in a town 30 miles north. I Googled it. Coffee shop and bookstore. Rustic. Cozy. Not somewhere you drive to on accident. The timestamp read 7:51 p.m. Not even 15 minutes after she left. I called the number. A woman answered. Sounded young, cheerful. I asked if they were open last night around that time. Said my wife had maybe dropped something there. She hesitated, then said yes, they were open. It had been busy. I asked if she remembered a woman with short dark hair and a green wool coat. She paused. Oh, yeah. I think she was here with a guy. They sat near the window. Ordered 2 black coffees. She said it like it was nothing. My chest stayed still. Too still. I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the couch where Eva had kissed me just an hour earlier. The next day, I didn't say a word. I watched her stir honey into her tea. She wore a sweater I'd never seen before, oversized, charcoal, sleeves swallowing her fingers. She caught me looking and said, "What?" Nothing. But I couldn't stop hearing the cafe girl's voice. With a guy. sat near the window. That afternoon, I checked the forum again. Liam hadn't posted anything new. I sent him a short message. Did she ever lie like it was second nature? His reply came later that night. Not at first. At first, it was like she hated lying. Then one day it was like she couldn't remember what was true anymore. That was worse. Watching her forget what she'd promised. Watching her believe her own rewrite. I asked him what finally made him leave. She left me. Without a word. But looking back, I think she left weeks before she walked out. You just don't notice when the person beside you disappears inch by inch. His words made my stomach knot. That night, Eva sat beside me with her legs tucked under a blanket we'd bought together on a trip to the coast. She leaned into my side and scrolled through her phone, showing me a video of a cat wearing sunglasses. I laughed. It felt real. It felt easy. But her phone buzzed. She tilted it away to read the screen. The smile fell, not a lot, just a twitch at the edge of her mouth, and then she locked it, face down on her lap. Spam. I asked casually. Yeah, she said, a little too fast. Probably. I didn't ask to see it. She didn't offer. The distance between us wasn't measured in miles. It was in moments like that. 2 days later, I drove to Timberline Press. I told her I had a work meeting. She said, okay, have fun, and kissed my cheek without looking up from her laptop. The cafe looked just like I imagined. Warm lights, worn floorboards, the smell of coffee and old pages. I ordered a drink and sat in the corner, watching. Not for her. I didn't expect her to return. I was watching for ghosts, trying to see what she'd seen, trying to understand why this place, and why now. The barista was the same girl, I think. She didn't recognize me. I almost asked again about the man Eva was with, but what would that prove? That I was obsessed? That I didn't trust the woman I shared a bed with? That I already knew the answer and was just clawing for confirmation? When I got home that night, Eva was in the shower. Her phone buzzed on the table. I didn't mean to look. That's what I tell myself. Liam, 5:18 p.m. you said you were done. Don't do this to him too. The message disappeared before I could read more. The app was Signal. Auto-delete enabled. She never mentioned talking to Liam. She never said his name, not even once. I sat down on the edge of the bed. The water kept running behind the door. I stared at her dresser, the photos, the postcards from trips we'd taken. I tried to remember a time she'd told me the whole truth about anything before I asked. Nothing came to mind. She came out 10 minutes later, wrapped in a towel, face flushed from the heat. Everything okay? She asked, tilting her head. Yeah, I said. Work's just been weird. She nodded like she understood. That night, she reached for me in bed. I let her. I held her like nothing had changed. But the truth was already working its way in like rot behind a wall. Hidden, but spreading. There's a quiet that comes just before you stop trusting someone, a kind of calm disbelief. Your brain doesn't scream. It just starts documenting. I became a collector of small lies. I started noting down everything she said. I'd never done that before, not with Eva, not with anyone. I wrote dates, locations, fragments of conversation. I made a spreadsheet. I didn't even know why at first. Maybe because I needed to see it mapped out, like a constellation. Maybe because some part of me still wanted to prove myself wrong. Tuesday, dinner with Lana. Wednesday, canceled. Said Lana rescheduled. Reality. Lana texted me at 9:04 p.m. Eva's in Seattle this week, right? I didn't answer. There were more texts like that. From people who didn't know they were helping me. Eva, meanwhile, kept orbiting as if the center hadn't already collapsed. She lit candles in the bathroom, bought new throw pillows, told me we should start going to the farmer's market again. I watched her build routine out of the wreckage. I watched her try. But once you see someone lie with a steady hand, you start checking for fingerprints. One night, I checked her bag when she was asleep. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof, maybe. Or contradiction. Inside, Buried in the inner pocket of her worn leather purse, I found an envelope addressed to E. Donnelly, postmarked from Providence, dated 5 weeks ago. No return address. Just a single sheet of paper inside. A printed quote. "You left a wound so deep I started bleeding into other people." Anonymous. No signature. Nothing else. Just that. She'd folded it like it mattered. Kept it like a secret. The next morning, she made us both coffee. Wore one of my shirts. Sat across from me at the table like nothing in her life had ever bled into mine. I started dreaming about Liam. I'd never seen his face, but in my dreams he always stood just behind her, out of focus, watching me with something between warning and pity. One night I messaged him again. I asked him to tell me everything. He didn't reply right away. Then, hours later, she lied to me for 6 months. Said she loved me. Said I was the only one. But she was seeing someone else the whole time, someone I trusted. My best friend. They both pretended like nothing was wrong. I found out through a voicemail he never meant to send me. A pocket dial. Heard them together. I confronted her. She didn't deny it. She just said, I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know what to say. My hands hovered over the keyboard for a long time. Finally, I typed, "Do you think she's doing it again?" His response was immediate. She never stopped. She just changes the scenery. That was when I called Nathan. I'd saved his number from that DM, even though he never replied again after the first night. I stared at his name for a long time before pressing call. He picked up on the second ring. "Hello, Nathan. It's me, Jacob. We met at dinner a few weeks ago. You sent me a message." There was a pause. A slow exhale. "I remember. I need to ask you something," I said. "I figured you'd call," he said. There was something in his voice. Not smugness. Not even anger. Just resignation. "Did you?" I stopped. Tried again. "Did you know her before me?" He laughed. But it wasn't amusement. "She dated my roommate," he said. 3 years ago. Back in Somerville. I didn't even notice at first. She was just around the apartment. Then, one day, I walked into the kitchen and she was crying. Said he was cheating on her. Said she had no one. My stomach twisted. "She kissed me," he said. I was stupid enough to believe her. Thought I was saving her. Turned out she was seeing both of us. For months. He found out first. Left. I stayed, thinking that meant something. He paused. Then, she left a week later. Took a few of my things. Never said goodbye. I didn't know what to say. "I didn't send you that message to mess with you," he added. "I just didn't want to watch someone else walk into the fire thinking it was a fireplace." We hung up soon after. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I did something I didn't think I'd ever do. I copied the messages from Liam and Nathan. Printed them. Highlighted the parts she couldn't deny. That evening, I waited until she was on the couch, scrolling absently through her phone. Her feet tucked under her. Hair pulled back. She looked peaceful. Like someone who didn't know the floor beneath her was already starting to crack. "Eva," I said. She looked up. Smiled. "I need to ask you something," I said. My voice felt distant. Like it belonged to someone else. "Sure," she said, setting her phone aside. I took the pages from my pocket. Set them on the table between us. She stared at them. Didn't touch them. Her face didn't change, not right away. But her shoulders dropped, almost imperceptibly. A slow exhale. Like she'd known this was coming and was tired of holding it back. "Is any of it true?" I asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen before. Something between guilt and exhaustion. "I didn't know how to stop," she said. "Just like Liam told me she would." "You told me you were different now," I said. "I wanted to be." "Who was the man at the cafe?" She didn't flinch. "No one." "That's not true." "No," she said. "It's not." Silence. She picked up the papers, read them like she'd never seen them before. Her hands didn't shake. I thought if I could hold on long enough, she said quietly. I've become the person you thought I was. I wanted to scream. I wanted to leave. But I didn't move. I just looked at her and asked the question I'd been trying to avoid since the beginning. Do you even know how to love anyone? She looked at me, and for a second I thought she might lie again. But she didn't. I think I confused love with hiding places, she whispered. We didn't speak much after that. She slept on the couch that night, curled under the same blanket we bought at the coast. I lay in bed with the door open, staring at the ceiling, waiting to feel something sharper than numbness. But numbness has weight too. It sinks in slow, until even your grief feels muffled. In the morning, she made coffee like she always did. 2 cups. One black, one with oat milk, even though we hadn't had oat milk in weeks. I bought more, she said, setting it down. Her voice was even, almost casual. I stared at the cup. Why? Because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't touch the coffee. The rest of the day passed like a rehearsal. We moved around each other like understudies in someone else's life, knowing the lines, hitting the marks, but feeling none of it. That night, I told her I wanted to talk. Really talk. No more gaps. No more theater. We sat in the dining room, no music, no distractions. Just the overhead light and the sound of our breathing. I need you to be honest with me, I said. Everything. Not just scraps. I want the whole picture. She nodded slowly. Then, for the first time since we met, Eva told me who she was. I lied to Liam, she began. I lied about the cheating, about being hurt, about all of it. She paused, looked down at her hands. I told him my last boyfriend hit me. It wasn't true. I told him my parents disowned me. Also a lie. I wanted to see if someone could love me just because I needed them. I said nothing. I let her unravel. I started seeing his best friend about 2 months in. It wasn't planned. At least, I don't think it was. Maybe it was. He was kind. Curious. I liked the way he looked at me like I wasn't broken. But I didn't want to leave Liam either. So you kept both, I said, voice flat. I thought I could hold them in separate compartments. That's what I always try to do. Keep people in pieces. That way if one part falls apart, I still have the rest. Her face was blank, but her fingers fidgeted in her lap, pulling at the threads of her sleeve. It got messy. The lies started overlapping. Liam found out through a voicemail I didn't know I left. I didn't even hear what it said. He just stopped coming home. Did you ever tell him the truth? No, she said. I wrote him a letter. Then I deleted it. I waited. She didn't look at me. And Nathan? I asked. She flinched. Just slightly. He was the best friend, she said quietly. I never loved him. But I needed him to love me. After Liam left, I stayed with Nathan for a while. Said I was grieving. He bought me books. Made me tea. And then, I left. No note. She shook her head. What about the others? There were others, she said. I don't remember all their names. I looked at her for a long time then. Not to judge. Not even to understand. Just to see who I'd been sleeping next to all this time. And I saw it, not cruelty, but hollowness. Like someone who had been held too tightly once and decided never to be held again without control. I never cheated on you, she said, as if that was something. As if it meant anything. But you would have, I said. If the timing had been different. If you got scared. She didn't deny it. I tried to be good to you, she whispered. You tried to be someone else, I corrected. A long silence passed between us. She looked tired, like the mask had worn her out. I thought I could build a new self out of this apartment, she said. Out of the way you looked at me. Out of the quiet. But Liam's voice kept following me. And then Nathan's. And now yours. What do you want from me? I asked. I don't know, she said. Forgiveness, maybe. Or to disappear before you hate me. I stood then. Slowly. My body felt heavier than it should. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just watched me walk toward the door. Watched as I reached for my coat. As I opened it. As I looked back at her one last time. Was any of it real? I asked. She didn't blink. It was all real, she said. Even the lies. I stayed in a hotel that night. The room was sterile, quiet. I lay on the stiff bed with the TV off, staring at the darkness, listening to the hum of the air conditioner. She didn't text, didn't call. I dreamed of Liam's forum post, scrolling endlessly on a blank screen, every word repeating. You don't know who she really is. The next morning, I checked out early. Went back to the apartment just once. She was gone. Took some clothes, her books, the postcards from the fridge. Left the framed photo of us from Maine. The one where she was laughing and I was looking at her like I just won something I didn't deserve. I walked through the rooms like a man surveying someone else's crime scene. On the kitchen table, folded neatly, was the birthday card I found in her drawer. The one from Liam. She'd left it open, like a confession. Underneath it, a sticky note. I didn't know how to love cleanly. I only knew how to survive. I'm sorry I brought you into the storm. That was the last thing she ever said to me. It's been 4 months since she left. She never came back for the rest of her things. The closet still holds a few sweaters, a scarf that smells like bergamot, and the green wool coat she wore the night I followed her to the cafe. I should have donated them. I meant to. But every time I opened the door, I just shut it again. The apartment is quieter now. Not lonely, just adjusted. Like a house that finally settled after years of creaking. I still sleep on the left side of the bed, though the sheets no longer carry her shape. The photo from Maine is gone. I threw it out the morning after she disappeared. It didn't feel like mourning. It felt like decluttering a story that was never mine to begin with. For a while, I thought I might reach out to Liam again. Thank him. Apologize. Something. But I didn't. He'd already given me the truth, or at least enough of it to survive by. Eva never texted. Never wrote. I didn't block her. I just stopped checking. What haunted me most weren't her lies. It was how close they came to being believable. I keep thinking back to that first night we met, the painting of the girl holding a fish, Eva standing so still in front of it, like she recognized herself there. I wonder now if that's when it started, not the relationship, but the performance. If she chose me because I looked like someone who would believe. Or worse, because I looked like someone who wouldn't ask. Last week, I ran into Sarah at a bookstore downtown. She asked how Eva was. I told her we broke up. Left it at that. Sarah gave me the kind of look people give when they want to say I'm sorry but don't know what for. You two seemed good together, she said. We were, I replied. In places. I bought a novel on my way out, The Secret History. Eva had once told me it was her favorite, though I never saw her actually read it. I'd always assumed that meant she read it before we met. Now I wonder if it meant someone else once said it was theirs. I haven't opened it yet. It sits on my nightstand like a small, unspoken dare. One of the hardest things to accept, harder than the betrayal, harder than the silence, is that I still miss her. Not the real her. The one she created for me. The one who laughed at my jokes, left notes in my books, put her feet on my lap during thunderstorms. I miss the mirage. Missing the person who hurt you doesn't make you weak. It just means the lie was beautiful. Sometimes, late at night, I replay things she said. Harmless things. Things that used to mean nothing. I like how quiet you are. It makes me feel like I can breathe. You make everything feel softer. I want this to last. I've never wanted anything to last before. It wasn't the words. It was the way she said them, like they cost her something. Now I think maybe that was the trick. Convince people your vulnerability is rare, and they'll protect it like treasure. I don't hate her. I thought I would. But hatred requires energy. Investment. I've spent enough of both. What I feel now is smaller. Calmer. Like watching smoke after the fire's gone out. A week ago, I got a letter. No return address. No name. Inside was a photograph. The painting from the gallery, the girl and the fish. A print, not the original. On the back, written in pen. Some of us only know how to be reflections. Thank you for believing I was real. I stared at it for a long time. Then I set it down, made coffee, opened the windows. The air smelled like spring. People ask sometimes if I'll start dating again. I tell them I'm not in a hurry. I don't say why. I don't tell them that I now watch for the lies that sound most like love. That I listen not to what people say, but how often they avoid saying anything at all. That I've learned silence can feel like safety until it isn't. A friend of mine, Marcus, invited me to dinner last weekend. Just a small thing. He said, "You need to get out more." He doesn't know what happened, not the real story. Just that Eva left, and I stayed. At the dinner, someone asked what I do. I told them I work in publishing. Said it simply. They asked if I read a lot. I nodded. Any favorite authors? Someone asked. I almost said her name, but stopped myself. Raymond Carver, I said instead. He wrote like the world was always 5 minutes from falling apart. They laughed. Not unkindly. I laughed, too. It felt honest. There are still moments I walk past strangers and wonder if she's somewhere nearby, in a different city, a different story, trying again with someone new. She probably is. That's the thing about people like her. They don't stop. They just change names, change streets, change their smile. But I don't need to follow her story anymore. I have my own. I go to bed earlier now. I read more. I answer texts slowly. I go days without remembering her name. And when I do, it doesn't ache the way it used to. It's just a name. Just a scar. She never told me what she did to him. But in the end, I learned enough to know what she was capable of. And that was more than enough. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.